The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. 35 years ago, a group of individuals in Lincoln created a program to kind of create the next generation of leaders for Lincoln, and they called it Leadership Lincoln. My guests today are from Leadership Lincoln, and we're going to be talking about the importance of this program, what it's meant for the city of Lincoln, and kind of the future of this valuable resource. So stay with me, I think you'll enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Jerry Renaud. Today we have a very special treat for you. There is a wonderful spot in Lincoln, Nebraska called the Heyman Rose Garden. We're going to take a little tour today with one of the best tour guides we could find, Alice Reed. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
I'm Doug Joes. As life expectancy has increased, the occurrence of dementia and Alzheimer's has also increased. Now, 1 in 3 seniors die with some form of dementia. But lifestyle changes and other help are available. Stay tuned for this interesting discussion.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today our guest is somebody very special, Dr. Dee Tonak, and she's going to be talking about all the strange and curious and wild and dangerous diseases that and how we used to accommodate them in the past. So please stay tuned to this.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. My name's Kim Hachia, and I'm excited today because we're going to be talking about a really interesting program that's been going on in Lincoln for 35 years now. 35 years ago, some very forward-thinking people in Lincoln developed a program to sort of create the next set of leadership for Lincoln, and they called it Leadership Lincoln. And my guests today are Mick Hale, who's the Executive Director of Leadership Lincoln, and Maria Salinas Scherfus, who's the Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors. And we're going to be talking today about the 35-year history of Leadership Lincoln and its impact on the community. So welcome, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
You bet, thank you.
Thanks. Hey Mick, give me kind of the quick elevator speech of what is Leadership Lincoln, its history, its mission.
Our goal, what we hope to do is develop strong leaders for a stronger Lincoln. And in the mid-1980s, a lot of these type organizations were coming about throughout the country. And as you mentioned, some very significant leaders in the community had that forward vision to say, how can we get into this space? And Leadership Lincoln was founded in 1985 with one program, the Fellows. And over the course of the last 35 years, we've added 3 additional cohorts. We've got an extensive outreach and 3,500 alumni plus. And we're proud to say that we are the largest organization of our kind in the state. There's 24 other similar organizations, and we have the most alumni, and we offer the most programming and content.
Thanks. I need to disclose that I am an alum of Leadership Lincoln. I was in Fellows Class 10.
Right out of college.
Right out of college, yeah. And I know that one thing that's kind of interesting about Leadership Lincoln is that although some leadership programs are affiliated with chambers, Leadership Lincoln is not. And why is that?
That's right, and that again is a credit to those folks that initiated this effort to have us remain independent. We can jump into really about any topic that we like. We can stay relevant, and it's really a benefit for us as we develop and design our curriculum.
Yeah, thanks. So Maria, tell me about, Mick mentioned there's four cohorts, so tell me what those are and how people get chosen for that.
There are 4 cohorts, as you said, and the first one would be the advocates. And the advocates are for individuals of diverse backgrounds or for individuals who advocate for underrepresented individuals. Then we also have the youth program, and the youth is for high school students who are interested in civic service. We also have fellows. The fellows cohort is for individuals who are up and coming and interested in leadership. And then we have the executive cohort, which are individuals that bring their experience and their willingness to tackle certain issues that are going on in the community.
And so that how are these groups chosen? How do you get to become a Leadership Lincoln fellow or exec or whatever?
Both Mick and I can answer that, but there is an application process that and a nomination process that Leadership Lincoln vets through.
And it's it's a pretty a competitive process. This past year, in 3 of our cohorts, we had more applications than what we have space, which obviously is for us a good problem to have, but the one that really bothers me is our youth cohort. And kids do that their sophomore year, they apply the end of their freshman year, and historically we get 30 to 40 more applications than what we have capacity for. So we're really looking at how we can provide more opportunity for that cohort in particular this year.
And then as people are in these various cohorts, what do they do during the program year? What are some of the things that each program is obviously different, but there is some overlap in what they're trying to learn.
We try and focus on themes, again, that are relevant to the community, things that we feel will need folks to jump in and make an impact. They will have opportunity to connect with leaders in business, government, public safety, education, human services. We're really emphasizing a higher level of engagement on our seminar days to have more active-based learning when it comes into those content days. And really the hope is that people can get connected with the areas that they're interested in, or if they don't come in and they don't know, hopefully we can help them identify what their passion is.
And I know that back in the dinosaur days, when it was only fellows, it was really directed at kind of a younger cohort. But now it's more expansive, and also there's been a change in thinking about what constitutes a leader. And either of you guys can jump in and address that.
Well, I think mainly Leadership Link and the board, we talked about having equal representation in our cohorts, kind of what the makeup of the community was. Mm-hmm. And we recognize that it's all about diversity to make sure that we have equal representation, but also inclusivity, which means that we wanted to make sure that we were selecting individuals that would bring a cross-section of what the community is in Lincoln.
Mm-hmm. And I know you and I had chatted briefly about having what you called underrepresented voices, and people that maybe aren't always at the table, and getting people engaged in that way too. And also an older group of leaders now. I know that in my day it was kind of breathtaking that they took somebody who was older than 40, and now that's common, I think.
Well, I would say in our fellows program, we probably see that shift more. A couple of years ago, we had someone in our cohort that just graduated from law school. They were 24 years old, and we had someone who'd been retired for 6 years, and they turned 70 during the program year. Len Slope, the man, the legend in Lincoln. And I think there's a lot to that. I think there's a lot of folks who they get different, take different approaches towards their leadership, towards their development. People get to a point in their life where they're empty nesters or they're preparing for retirement, and they want to look to see what the options are, how they can get involved in the community, and we're a good place to get started to learn that.
I know there's been some, we've had some stellar graduates. Do you want to name drop a few of our more recent stellar graduates?
Well, I would say this week, obviously, Mayor Larry and Gaylor Baird is an alum of our executives cohort. We had several Inspire Award nominees recognized this week. 3 winners: Linda Robinson Rutz, who was a past board member, Jennifer Connect, currently on our board, and then Maya Anderson, who's at Lincoln Southwest High School, won the Future Business Leader Award and Scholarship, and she was in the youth cohort last year.
And also the chief of police and the fire chief.
Yep, chiefs of police and fire. Benny Shobe, Councilman Shobe, was part of the advocates cohort a few years back and a distinguished alumni award winner.
And Richard McGinnis was in my class.
Yep.
And he's been on the school board and the city council, so my class lifting it up.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, since Leadership Lincoln's core values are service and outreach, how How does the organization achieve that, aside from just the cohorts programs?
We, the last couple of years, we've focused a little bit on what does outreach mean for us. We feel that for many years, long before I started, there was Leadership Lincoln really had good command of the space on this seminar concept and building our leaders out internally. And it was the outreach piece when I came on board that we really wanted to explore. We've got 2 programs that fit into that. Our Hot Topics program, which we have 2 coming up here in October. One with Chief Mike Despain out at the new fire station, and then one on October 30th on immigration. And information can be found on our website with those activities. But also our poverty simulation, something that we did internally for many, many years. We've taken out into the community and provided it as a service for education groups. Several businesses in town have done it. We've got one coming up in a couple weeks for the law college, the law school, and the students there. And in the last couple of years, really it's been 3 years, I guess now, since we started that, we've provided the service for more than 2,000 folks in the community to just get, it's a simulation. We don't want it to seem to be a game, but we want people to gain a greater understanding of the challenges facing those families living and working in poverty.
I've been engaged and helped with those poverty simulations. They really are interesting, and they do make you realize how difficult it is to kind of navigate the myriad of systems, and that I commend Leadership Lincoln for kind of bringing that to the community, because that's a really interesting thing. So how do you think this all makes Lincoln a better community?
I would say the main thing, and it kind of aligns with our core values, Kim, is the connections that we provide to all of our cohorts. And that's what is so special, that we do have these 4 cohorts all the way from the youth then to the executive. And there's opportunities there that our participants would normally not have unless they were exposed to this, where they through our sessions, we do bring the cohorts together. So there are times where a high school student would have the opportunity to sit next to a CEO of a company or a council member and have a conversation which they normally would not have.
Right.
So I think connections is really one of the main benefits of this.
Right. So what's the future for Leadership Lincoln?
Well, and Maria most certainly is the future as vice chair. Here in a couple of years, she will be the chair. Brendan Evans is currently our chair now. And our board, we're very, very fortunate that we've got a very active board. We ask a lot of our board, and they respond, and we're very grateful for that. It's a great thing to work, our job being to prepare leaders for the future, and then we get to really kind of get our pick of the lot, if you will, that to help guide us in the future. And we're always like every nonprofit, we're still striving to have that sustainable funding model. Being an independent, as I said, is awesome from the standpoint of how we design curriculum. It's challenging. We got to go out and cover 30% of our expense in a given year. We want to rebuild some capacity for the agency from a staffing perspective so we can do more. And I think from the programming perspective, everything we do, we need to try and stay relevant. We need to make sure that we're addressing the issues that are of concern in the community, and make sure we're highlighting the successes, and make sure that people know that while there are challenges, there are many great things happening to address those challenges.
Thanks. That's a great way to sum it up. Congratulations to Leadership Lincoln for 35 years. That's a phenomenal run. And I hope there's 35 more. And if people want more information about Leadership Lincoln, the website is leadershiplincoln.org. And so you can go on the web and look find out more about the organization and some of the programs that Leadership Lincoln presents. And I thank you both for coming. And I'd like to remind our guests and our list watchers that it's never too late to live and learn.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. Today we want you to suspend your belief just a little bit. It is winter. If you look outside, it could be gray, there could be snow on the ground, and it could be not very nice to be outside. But we want to give you a little taste of what Lincoln, Nebraska is like in the summer and in the fall. We are here at the Heyman Rose Garden. It is a wonderful, beautiful place, as you will be seeing in just a few minutes, and we want to give you a little tour and not only tell you how fabulous it is for the summer and for the fall, but also a pretty interesting place to come in the winter. We have a fabulous tour guide with us today. Please welcome Alice Reed to our program. Alice, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You are officially listed as a Parks and Recreation gardener. Now,
Yep.
everybody I talk to says she is so much more than a gardener.
They call me a head gardener.
Oh, a head
but I
gardener.
don't know if that
Okay.
sounds funny too.
Tell me a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing this.
Well, I've been here for 38 years
Wow.
as a gardener in the Parks and Recreation Department. I started as just a young thing out of college and found myself liking it so much and a passion for it that I love and wanted to share and be here with everybody here.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We are here at the Heyman Rose Garden. This is an interesting piece of land. It has an interesting history, and the garden itself has
Yeah.
a real interesting history. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that.
Well, the gardens have been here on this tract of land for since the 1930s, and also it was mostly set aside to feed the horses. They would use it for a hay field to feed the horses that were working on the gardens around here and projects for the WPA and the city works. So it's been in the city for a long time. It was basically a flat area used for hay, and then they decided to turn it into a test rose garden. So we had a test guy, Henry Goebel's dad, wanted to set up, and we called it the Goebel Rose Garden. So it was here from the early on, very well tended test garden, and that's what we have today. We've continued it. It's gone through several changes since then and renovated in 2006. So now we have a new beautiful rose garden, and it's a joy for us to be here now.
And it was a wonderful gift from lots of people in
Oh,
Lincoln,
yes.
but Don Heyman was the one
Don
who sort
Heyman was the original. He started it. He's in the Rose Society, and he gave the beginning gift to get this project going.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Let's take a look at some of the really fun, interesting things
You
that are
bet.
here and give people just a little bit of an indication
You bet.
of what we have
Yep,
here.
there's lots to see.
Okay, so as we walk into the gardens, one of the first things that I think people are going to see are these little cherub statues. Tell us a little bit about those. I just find them absolutely fascinating.
Well, these are imps, known by the pointed ears. And this is Turtle Boy. We also have Frog Boy down the way. And we also have the Joy Fountain, all done by the same artist, Edith Barreto Parsons. And she's done a wonderful job. They're bronze, and so they're vandal-proof, and they're whimsical. And they show up great, even in the winter, they're beautiful.
They really are whimsical. Any idea of what the thought process was behind them? Why the frogs?
Well, I think imps are supposed to be sort of evil in a way. I don't know about evil, but they want to get in trouble and play. So they've got the frogs. I don't know, we might get in trouble with PETA.
All right, we'll be careful with that then. Let's go take a look at the fountain, because again, I think that's just a wonderful, fabulous place.
It's beautiful. That was all donated by the Caney family. Mark Caney, and he was our landscape architect.
All right, and we saw this in the background, but this is the Joy Fountain, is it not?
This is the Joy Fountain.
Tell us a little bit about the Joy Fountain.
So this is another beautiful bronze with imps holding up a dish of water and being splashed in that hot air. It feels so good right now. It's been tiled with these beautiful deco roses. It's by the Caney family donated this fountain in honor of his mother, Mark's mother. And it's a beautiful fountain and people love it. It just splashes and is just lovely and inviting.
It is, and it's obvious that people like it here and they like to come have little festivals here and probably even stick their toes in the water every once in a while as well.
They stick their feet in there and cool down just like the little imps.
Wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about the surrounding area here, because this is you said earlier that this is can be a fun place in the winter as well, and it's not just for spring and summer and fall. So tell us a little bit about this area and how it stays green year round.
Well, this is what we call a knot garden, and it's very much an English styled garden. It's surrounded by upright Taylor junipers that sort of frame it from all sides. But these boxwoods and globe blue spruces and the bushes stay intermingled in the wintertime too, and with snow on it, they're quite delightful to look at.
Yeah, we don't want to talk too much about snow, but if we do get snow, it is pretty in here, isn't it?
It creates winter interest. Along with the fences, we've got these beautiful wrought iron fences
Yes, those are
around,
wonderful.
And the columns and statues. It looks lovely in the winter too.
Yeah, I like the fountain, the way it's sort of set up with an entrance off of 27th here, and another entrance over here, and then surrounded by the garden and then the fountain. It's just really a pretty place.
It is. It's just a lovely garden.
It is. All right.
All right.
Let's keep moving on. One of the things that we did talk about, and I think it's really important to understand for everybody, is that this is not just about roses. There are all kinds of different kinds of plants and flowers in here that just give it, it's so aromatic and so pretty. Tell us a little bit about this area, what we've got.
So this area incorporates all types of other woody ornamental plants. We have hydrangeas, we have grasses, perennials, evergreens, and it just fits in nicely down in here. It shows a good example of all the perennials that'll grow in Nebraska. If we can grow it down here, you could have this in your yard. So it's fun to come through and see all the different varieties of hydrangeas and different styles of shrub roses and perennials and how they're put together. We have a lot of people come down and want to know what things are and how to put them together, what they're going to look like full grown.
These hydrangeas are just huge.
Oh, they are. These are tree hydrangeas, and we have probably 20 different varieties of hydrangeas all throughout here. Little lamb, all different types. Sykes dwarf, oak leaf. Come on out and see them.
Yes, there are all kinds of fun little things to look at in here. Let's go back over this way and we'll look at our little spiral walkway here.
String balls.
So I called this the spiral walkway.
Spiral walkway.
Because I'm ignorant, but this is called the labyrinth, right?
It's a labyrinth.
Okay,
actually.
Tell us a little bit about
So each
this.
road, you're supposed to meditate as you go through here.
Oh, okay.
And you count, and everybody does that. And we have a lot of people that come through, and it's supposed to be meditative. You walk in a circle, and you end up in the center.
Oh, okay.
And you can choose your path.
Very interesting, very interesting. And who's any idea how or where this concept came from, or who created it?
Once again, this is English style gardening, and labyrinths played a big part of those. You know, they would do them with hedges and boxwoods, privet, but this is done just with a brick path.
Have you tried this? Have you tried walking through and meditating?
Tried. Yes,
and is it effective?
I do. And kids like to run in circles.
Oh, sure.
You get pretty dizzy walking through here.
Okay, very good. There are a couple of interesting things that I do
Yeah.
want to get to before we go.
You
So
bet.
let's keep moving on. So a couple of the really cool things that are back here. One of those is this interesting statue of this headless
the headless
woman.
lady.
Tell us
yeah.
a little bit about the headless lady.
So this is Palo Alto, or otherwise tall trees, and it depicts a woman strolling through the tall trees and thoughts in her head, and that's what this is to depict. It's a calming, real calming, meditative type strolling figure, and we thought it fit really nice in the garden.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. So her head is in the trees,
Her head is in the trees.
and so these are the thoughts.
These are her thoughts in her
Okay.
head, and it's up to your interpretation of what it is. And so it's just she's strolling around, and these are her thoughts in her head.
Just as she's enjoying the
Enjoying
roses
the
and
garden
growing the
and walking
hydrangea
through-
and all of the
And
different
actually,
things.
people walking through the garden, that's sort of what they look like when they're just walking and everything. The trees are covering their heads. Sort of looks like that.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
cool.
It's beautiful.
All right, one other thing that we'd like to talk about, and that is these little balls,
The string balls.
the string balls, yes.
Yeah. So
There's a couple of them. One of them is a
Yeah.
little bigger. This one's a little smaller
we
and
thought these
nicely
were
hidden.
whimsical. Lynn Johnson bought them. He saw them and he thought they'd be perfect out in the garden because they sort of float in the grasses. And they're pretty in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
They have birds like to sit on them, but also just to have the grasses flowing around them, it makes them appear as though they're just floating like a string ball in the air. So very beautiful. White is striking just because everything else is sort of highlighted with the white.
Barry, we
So
just saw
beautiful.
a monarch butterfly. Are there all kinds of? I saw some spiders. I mean, so it's sort of
Oh,
an
yeah.
interesting gathering place for the
This-
environment.
Definitely. This is called the Rotary Strolling Garden, and so it was donated by the Rotary, and we've redeveloped it into several different beds. It features all sorts of shrub roses and perennials mixed together with grasses to sort of highlight how they look. It's a great place to come down. We have them labeled so people can come through and walk and see what they like, what looks good to them, and then do it at home.
Fabulous.
That's what it's all about.
One more thing.
Yes?
It is the rose garden.
Yes.
So we need to talk about all of the different varieties
Oh,
of
yes.
roses. So
Wow.
let's find a fun place that we can do that.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, so as we said, the roses, it is the rose garden.
Yes.
And to the not so discerning eye, you go, oh, we have lots of nice
Lots of
roses here,
roses,
but
yeah.
tell me about the roses.
Well-
There are so many different varieties. They're incredible.
We have so many, and there's so many different types. We have 2,700 roses
Wow.
down here throughout the rose garden of all different varieties. The hybrid teas are represented, floribundas, grandifloras, miniatures, tree roses,
So somebody who knows roses will
shrub
understand all
roses,
these things
all
you're
the
talking about, right?
Carpet roses, of course. And so we've got all different types of roses down here. A good representation of what grows well in Nebraska. Our big goal around here is to try to grow black spot free roses, which is sort of tough. So the varieties that we pick are known to be fairly black spot resistant, which is important when you have Nebraska weather that's so hot and humid and rainy like we've had this year. You're going to get black spot. So we have to work extra hard on the hybrid tea rose garden is really heavily maintained. And I've got the Rose Society, I have volunteers, I have my Garden Gap group. Seniors come out and help me keep this thing deadheaded and keep the bad leaves off. It's a lot of work, but it takes hands-on, and the roses thrive with the love that they receive. If you give them attention, they'll look great. If you don't give them attention, they're gonna look sort of shabby. But these guys thrive on the attention, and it's a beautiful garden. Come on down and see what one. They smell good, they're beautiful to look at, and
it's a
we've got a
gorgeous
great
place.
variety, so. It's a
Alice, thank you
fun place.
so much for
Thank you very
joining
much
us
for coming
today.
down.
Come back and see us again sometime.
You bet. You come out anytime.
Thank you. And thank all of you for joining us today on Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Legal services are a part of the spectrum of senior services available through our 8 area agencies on aging. Attorneys can assist and educate seniors on consumer credit and debt collection issues, as well as help them plan ahead with advance directives. Attorneys can also help seniors with consumer fraud and financial exploitation concerns, and also guide them through government benefit issues. For more information, contact the Elder Access Line at 800-527-7249.
Welcome to Live and Learn. Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death in the U.S. I'm Doug Jose, and here to discuss this disease with me today is Molly George. Welcome and for being with us. That's great.
Doug, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, your title is a specialist with the Nebraska chapter. Describe to us what that means and what your responsibilities are.
Sure, I would love to. Well, Alzheimer's care and support is a big passion of mine, so I'm really excited that I get to work in this domain. I'm part of the Alzheimer's Association Nebraska chapter. So we have 3 offices in the state. We have one in Kearney, Omaha, and Lincoln, and I work out of the Lincoln office. And I mainly deal with education and community support. So I train support group facilitators statewide. I am also involved in our faith outreach initiative, Purple Champions, which gets dementia education into faith communities. I do a lot of care consultations in the community, and I also just work to promote at hospitals and community facilities education.
Great. Now we hear the term Alzheimer's and dementia. Can you describe the differences here for us?
Sure, that's actually the #1 question I get asked when I do education. You know, what's the difference in what is dementia, what is Alzheimer's, and how do those fit together? A really great way to think about it is that dementia is the overall umbrella term, and Alzheimer's is the #1 type of dementia. And within that, you also have other types of dementia. You have Lewy body, you've probably heard of, frontotemporal, and vascular dementia. So a good way to really look at that is to think about that overall umbrella term as being like automobiles. So you have different types of automobiles. You've got pickups, you've got cars, you've got SUVs, minivans. So that's kind of how we like to describe in terms of dementia.
Now there are some 10 steps to look at dementia in terms of observing it. What would you say are the most important ones that people should look for in trying to diagnose dementia?
Right, that's a really...
Or Alzheimer's, I should say.
Right, that's a really... These steps are part of a campaign that we have ongoing. We want people to know that even if you experience one of these signs that is posted on the screen here, that we would like you to get to the doctor and get that evaluated. I would say they're all very important signs, but the one I tend to educate the most on is really, a change in what is normal for you. If you're experiencing changes in your routine and things like that that are disrupting your everyday life, and those changes are something new to you, that is definitely something to be concerned about. Another one that is really, I find is really important educating people is the ability to retrace steps. So, we all lose our car keys. That's a common one, right? Everybody thinks, well, I lost my keys this morning. Does that mean I have Alzheimer's? Again, what's your ability to retrace those steps? Once you find your keys, is it kind of like, oh, that's right. I remember I got a phone call, so I set them down. We have that ability to retrace those steps. So those to me are ones that I like to keep tucked away, but they're all very important, and you don't need to have all of them. If you're just exhibiting one of those symptoms, please see your doctor.
Okay, please see your doctor. Is that your family doctor?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. Seeing your primary care doctor is a great place to start. And the reason we tell folks that is we really want them to rule out a possible underlying medical condition that can potentially cause memory issues. So within that, we get to your primary care doctor, have them do some lab work. They might get a urine sample to rule out a urinary tract infection, doing lab work to look at vitamin levels, your thyroid, and also looking at glucose levels, because we know fluctuations in glucose can affect memory as well.
Now, you use the term being a good self-advocate for your health. What do you describe that to be?
Right, so I'm really passionate about being a good healthcare advocate for not only yourself but for your loved one. So being a good advocate means to ask questions. When you get to that primary care doctor and you have questions, you know, we don't want memory concerns to be brushed off as normal aging. Okay, so again, be a good advocate. Ask questions. Take notes while you're at the doctor. If it's helpful to have somebody go with you, extra set of eyes and ears never hurts. People usually glean different information out of a conversation. So involve a family member or a friend to go with you, ask those great questions, take notes, follow up, make sure you're getting results, and make sure that those results make sense for what your concerns are.
This leads us to the next step in terms of are there things you can do to lower the risk of Alzheimer's?
Right, so the kind of the four main realms that we like to focus on for lowering risk would be getting adequate exercise, focusing on your diet, getting social engagement with other folks, and definitely maintaining cognitive stimulation, so being engaged in new learning opportunities.
So learning, does that mean if you do puzzles and things like that that get your mind going, that's part of the process?
Yeah, that can definitely be used as a way to engage yourself to adapt those healthy lifestyles. A really great example I like to use is maybe you'll join a dance club or something like that, a dance class. So not only are you getting, you're working your brain, you're learning a new dance step, which we all know takes a lot of mental energy, does for me. Learning a new dance step, you're getting exercise, right? You're dancing, that's great exercise. And you're probably dancing with other people, right? So you're getting that social engagement piece. So you're getting 3 out of those 4 that we really recommend.
So brain health is pretty much equivalent to having good physical health?
Well, good mental health, yeah, definitely.
What are other activities, you mentioned dancing, are there other activities that can contribute to this positive lifestyle?
Sure, so I encourage folks to be creative, and do something that you enjoy doing, because if you do something that you already enjoy, you're going to keep it up. It's going to be part of your everyday life. It's not just going to be a one-time event, right? So folks that maybe like to read, join a book club. You're stimulating your mind by reading, but you're going to be around other people, you're going to have other conversation, you're going to be connecting with folks. That's a great other way too. Community like Lincoln, there's so many opportunities to be engaged and to be supportive in that domain.
So maintaining that social contact is, I hear you saying that's very important.
Yeah.
Let's look at the positive sides in terms of what might be happening to help us with this disease. What's happening on the research front?
Sure, so there's a lot going on nationally and worldwide. A couple studies that to me are really, really encouraging. A couple months ago, a couple studies came out and just, again, looked at, what do we have in our power? How can we lower our risk, right? Because, there are genetic factors, but there's also things that we can do to lower our risk for our lifestyle choices. So one study looked at folks that adopted 4 to 5 new positive lifestyle changes into their routine, okay? So maybe they walked to work instead of drove their car. Maybe they changed their diet. So things like that. And they looked at 4 or 5, those folks adopted 4 or 5 of those new ways of promoting a positive lifestyle. And then they looked at folks that didn't implement anything, or maybe just one thing. Maybe they just changed one thing in their lifestyle. And the folks that had basically adopted the 4 or 5 lifestyle changes had a 60% reduction in their risk of acquiring Alzheimer's disease. So that to me is really encouraging, that we do have a lot of control over, our health and things like that. Another study that I found really interesting was looking at gender differences. So we know that women are at a higher risk for Alzheimer's disease. And you know, the thought around that used to be, well, women live longer than men.
Right.
They tend to live longer, right? And we know that age is the greatest risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. But this study actually looked at women in the paid workforce. So they found that women that were engaged in the paid workforce in early adulthood through middle age significantly lowered their risk of Alzheimer's, acquiring Alzheimer's later in life. So again, you know, we know cognitive stimulation, we know adapting those healthy lifestyle habits are really beneficial and very influential in our risk factor level.
Let's go back to the Nebraska chapter. What activities are involved there, and what assistance is available?
Yeah, that's a really great question that I love focusing on, because we have so much to offer nationally and chapter-wise that I feel like maybe folks don't know about. So specifically in Nebraska, we cover the entire state with services and resources. We have many support groups statewide for caregivers. We have roughly about 45 support groups statewide. And then we do an early stage initiative in Lincoln and Omaha that is a support group that encourages education for not only the care partner, but also the person that has had the diagnosis. So these folks are in the early stage of the disease process. So those are two types of support groups that we have. We have ongoing community education. We have you can come in and do a care consultation. We have our 1-800 number, which is a national 1-800 number, 1-800-272-3900. And that is probably one of our greatest resources we have, because you can call day or night and be connected to a master's level social worker that can really troubleshoot about any question you might have, maybe a behavior with a loved one that you're experiencing, questions about Medicare, just kind of how to navigate this journey.
And the websites that were on the screen too.
Yes, those websites are great. ALZ.org is our national website, and that is I like to call it the Smithsonian of websites. Any type of research information, getting involved in research, if you want to be part of a study. We have our trial match program. We have a lot of different types of dementias are discussed, a lot of just educational. There's online support groups. There's so much. You could spend days. Two of my favorite websites are alz.org/care, and that is specifically for caregivers to give them additional resources, and alz.org/driving, which is a lot of great information about the topic of driving. So
this gets back to what you mentioned earlier about retracing your steps. If you get lost driving, that's
definitely yes. Yep, that's a big major concern. Yes, so we want to make sure and give people and folks tools and resources before that becomes an issue, that they're getting lost while they're driving, that maybe we need to not drive as much, or we need to have those conversations. It's very important.
Molly, this has been very interesting, and we encourage people to follow up if they're in this situation, either, well, first of all, contacting you.
Definitely.
And second of all, they can participate, as you mentioned, in these research activities. And then probably the third one is the support group. So thank you very much for enlightening on these opportunities.
Thank you so much for allowing me to share so many ways that we can help folks in our community with resources and services.
Remember, it's never too late to live and learn about possible Alzheimer's disease.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we're going to talk with Dr. Dee Tonak about the craziest cures that our ancestors used to live and die with. And I think you're going to find this absolutely fascinating. Dr. D, welcome to Live and Learn.
It will be fun to be here.
You know, it's really surprising that so many of us have lived, considering what our ancestors did. Why don't we start with, let's go back and talk about some of the causes.
Well, not too long ago, we didn't know about viruses, bacteria, germs of any sort, so we were looking for what the causes might be. One thing was water. Well, water could be kind of a bad thing to drink, but what came about from that was a lot of people would not take a bath. So it became a very filthy kind of world as well. Also, we thought breathing some of the air could be causing the germs. Well, we didn't know they were germs, but could be causing the problems. And some of that might have been true. Actually, living close together, when we started being in little towns and cities, that helped the diseases spread. Now, a lot of times we gave credit to God's anger.
Was God angry?
Well, that was one thought we had. We must not just be doing things correctly. Although I said there were a lot of other causes, but that was one thing. God must be angry at us, so we'll have to pray more so we don't get so sick.
But if they prayed and then still got sick, how did they rationalize that?
Well, we looked for some cures, and this is going to be a surprise. A lot of times cures were thought to be from urine or feces.
What do you mean from urine?
From the person's urine. Actually, toilets became a collecting place. And we thought, well, maybe drinking it or using it on wounds. It does have some acid in it, but it usually was not a good cure. Sometimes we take blood out of people or give blood to people or grind up bones. But you know, some of those old kind of things we now have been using in a little different modification, like stem cell transplants, or introducing bacteria into the digestive system. But I've got to tell you a couple of cures that were really far out. Are you ready for these?
Yes, I'm ready for anything you have to offer, madam.
Okay, here's one cure. If you had a cold, cook up some potatoes, put them on a bag around your neck, and that would probably cure your cold. Make you think you didn't have it anyway. Another kind of cure, if you had the mumps, you were to take a harness from your donkey, put it on the person with mumps, and then run around the pig pen.
What if you didn't have a donkey? I think I had mumps when I was a kid.
And I bet you would not remember that cure. Okay, and you got over it, right? Okay, that's good.
I live to tell the story.
Or let me tell you one more. You could take powdered bladder or kidney stones, and that would fix your sore eyes. I guess that was before cataract surgery, but that was another
Who
technique.
was telling people to do these things?
Well, you know, you tell the stories and the stories go on, right?
It's amazing that we're still alive, considering what our forefathers and foremothers, you know, gave us, because we didn't know. We just, you know, in ignorance.
Well, nowadays we live about 2.5 billion seconds. I'm a
What do you mean?
I'm a math teacher, so I'll let you figure that out at home. The average lifespan now is about 2.5 billion seconds. And actually, during some centuries...
Excuse me, but 2.5 billion seconds...
That's how long the average person lives in the United
now.
States.
But what is that? What is that in years?
All right, so you're supposed to go home and divide it. I'm giving you a math
good at
problem.
math.
I'll help you later.
You're the math teacher. Can you tell me exactly, well, what's the...
It does depend a lot upon how long you live. If you're 65 years old, there's a very good chance you'll live another 20 years. And if you're married, there's a good chance one of you at least lived to be 94. Okay. You're going to believe me, aren't you?
Well, yeah, because I'm getting up there, and I just wonder how much longer I've got.
Oh, you got a good lifespan. And I don't think you'll need to take the harness from any donkey to help that out.
Okay. What kind of cures really were available in the old days?
Think about your mom and dad's or your grandma and grandpa's medicine cabinet. And so you're seeing here a couple items. You're seeing Mills Cactus and Lydia Pinkham's Compound.
I remember Lydia Pinkham's Compound. What was that? I think I
Well,
took
it was
some
supposed to help for cramps. But you know what what was really in it was just a lot of alcohol. I think my dad took Geritol. That had a lot of alcohol in it, iron and alcohol. So I think we all have memories of some of those kind of things.
I just want to tell you a memory that I have. We did not take care of our teeth in the old days. We didn't know. And nobody pushed it in our particular family. There were 5 children, and we didn't brush our teeth. And so, of course, I would wind up with a cavity, and I hesitated going to the dentist because I thought, oh dear, what they're going to do, pull a tooth or something like that. And so when I went to the dentist, absolutely terrified about it, and he started to go into my mouth, and I began to cry, and he slapped me over the face. He slapped me on the face. And so that was my first encounter with a dentist. Can you imagine then what happened over the next course of years? I didn't go to the dentist. And I'm paying for it now, boy. I'm paying big time.
Do you want to talk about the dentist story and the false teeth? Are you ready to talk about that a little bit?
Yes.
Well, when we started eating sugar, and we didn't have dentists.
What, they didn't have sugar before?
Well, you know, before the early 1800s, we weren't doing as much importing of sugar. It actually started back in the 1700s. So here in the United States, we weren't just doing much sugar. Mm-hmm. There you see a sample of some of the first false teeth. These kind of false teeth actually go back hundreds of years ago. Little brace and some teeth. Now those teeth are made out of ivory. But do you know what became popular? So now think about it. We're eating a lot of sugar. We don't have the dentist we have today. We have rotting teeth. Well, that doesn't make for a very good smile. By the way, some of the early photos where people were not smiling, they didn't have very good teeth underneath those smiles.
You know, I've thought about all of those pictures we see of the homesteaders. And they're out there, you know, and nobody is smiling. Well, I think for one thing, the camera, it took so long for the camera, you know, to set everything up and shoot it, that if they did come out of their homes and they would bring their valuables out there and their best clothing and so forth, and they'd sit out there in the sun and smile, and pretty soon that smile would go away, and so everybody looked
It's
so
pretty hard to have a smile for 5 minutes, that's right. But if you don't have good teeth, you don't want to smile either. So, okay, we could make some teeth out of some wood or out of some ivory when it was legal to have ivory. But you know what else they would do sometimes? They would pay somebody to take a tooth out of your mouth, then take that space out of my mouth and stick that tooth in it. Or even they would go to the fields of deceased soldiers on a battlefield, pull out their teeth, take out my bad tooth and stick it in there. Well, do you know what that spread? A lot of germs. In other words, a lot of people became sick just from that little adventure they were taking part in.
Well, it's a good thing they're making teeth now.
In other ways, right?
Well, yeah, not stealing some from the dead.
That's right. So that was kind of a big problem. Well, what else would you like to talk about from our diseases and cures?
Well, I like to talk about you, because where did you discover this fabulous book?
Well, I just happened to be at Barnes & Noble's and saw the book, and I thought, you know, this would be a great topic for Ollie. Dreadful diseases and terrible treatments. And in our Ollie class, we talked about all sorts of things. We talked about the Spanish flu from World War I times, and we talked about malaria and yellow fever, and a lot of participants shared their stories too.
Well, we are so lucky now to be able to to know and have some doctors. And Here's a group of soldiers.
Oh,
and
let's
they're,
talk about
they're
that
gargling
story.
the salt water. Why would the soldiers gargle salt water?
Because they thought it would keep them from getting the Spanish flu. This was back from World War I time, and we even have a thought that that flu came from a fort area in Kansas. We're not sure. But it's actually influenza, like swine flu, bird flu. It evolves about every 10 years, and then every 60 years we get a really different kind of flu. And that Spanish flu was bad news because it actually attacked the young with good immune systems. And very quickly, like in the course of 24 hours, they would die from it. But gargling salt water was thought to be one way to keep you from getting that flu.
What was the lifespan for people at that particular time, like that going way back?
Do you know, it's varied a lot. I did some research on that. Before the Black Death, the bubonic plague, which came every couple hundred years, there's
the dancing dead, the skeleton.
So from 1400 to 1500, the lifespan after you made it through the first couple of years of infancy was only about 45 years. But the century before it, a lot of people lived to be 65 years old. So the diseases that are current gravely affect the life expectancy as well. So when the bubonic plague came, life expectancy went about 20 years lower. That, again, is after you make it through the first couple years of infancy, which captured a lot of young people.
What's the biggest disease we have now in the United States, do you know?
Well, goodness sakes. When you say Dr. D. Tonak, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't know that I could say that. Heart disease.
You're a math
cancer.
doctor.
That's the big hat that I wear. You know, some of the treatments for things like cancer are like foxglove, which is actually a poison. Anyway, what I'm saying is some treatments like arsenic, foxglove, I think foxglove maybe is more used for heart treatments, are poisonous items but used in the right amounts and with modification. We're still using, so you know, some of those terrible cures with a little modification become modern day cures.
But is cancer the leading cause of death?
Well, I'm not sure, Lita, and it might vary a bit with what age category you're talking about, what locality you're talking about. You know, we had a little piece there a bit about the bubonic plague. It is not as worldwide as it once was, but it still exists. But we've got treatment for it. The bubonic plague is actually something that attacks the lymphatic system. And when people would have the bubonic plague, they would get these large sores. And I read that if those those bubbles would burst within 7 days, the person might have a chance to survive if they didn't have secondary effects that would take them down.
Well, it's lucky that we're alive today, still hanging in there.
I think you're right.
I think our thanks so much to Dr. D. Tonak
It's been
telling
a
the
delight.
story. It's been wonderful to learn about the cures of the past, and we're glad that that's over.
Pretty much so.
Don't forget, it's never too late to live and learn.